Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. As we've been talking about data and acquisition of data and the elements of tech and AI makes this a very important conversation. And I can assure you we could have no two better people to have this conversation than Stavros from DataScouting and Klemens from APA. It always amazes me how our members are in tune with everything before they're happening and to be be able to really look around that corner to see what's going on. And so less of me, more of them, great content. We're going to start with Stavros.
Thank you, Johna. So, hi everybody. Happy to be here. So my talk will try and basically explain what's the European approach related to AI. So basically, it's the plan from the EU Commission to try and create global leaders in the AI space, something that it's currently lacking. So the European Commission may have several problems, may not be the most fast responding, let's say, organization, but we have to admit that at least related to technology, EU has created has done some good work. For example, GDPR, which is a very cumbersome and very difficult to adapt data protection law, made EU the global leader in data privacy. So this is what EU is trying to do right now. So today's talk will be about the current approach EU has related to AI and all the technologies that are basically AI related. Now, EU is losing this war. So EU is losing the AI war, so the Commission decided to put some measures, starting 2018 basically, that will allow both companies and research institutions to become more successful in AI. Now, I will not limit this talk for AI algorithms living just inside the computer and processing, for example, video clips, audio clips, speech recognition, stuff that we all know. But we will have to remember that AI, at some point or the other, and it already does, will live in a and will decide for us physical things. So it will decide if our car, for example, should stop or it should accelerate. So have in mind that this talk comes from the eyes of a software development company, that we develop AI technologies ourselves. So I'm by no means an expert on AI, on EU regulation, but I will try to give you an overview, and I have included several links into my presentation in order for you to use that as a reference if you want to educate yourself and your company related to EU and AI matters. Now, first, how EU Commission views AI. Now, the definition is that was included in the documents of EU, is that artificial intelligence refers to systems that display intelligent behavior and analyze their environment and take some action with some degree of autonomy. Now, of course, AI has many benefits, we all know that, but EU has realized that it includes many risks. So the risks are internal in the algorithmic nature of AI, so non-transparent decision-making, possible bias, possible discrimination included in the algorithms, but also intrusion in our private lives. So this is one problem with all AI algorithms. The second problem is distrust that people, everyday people, have related to AI. So people fear that they will lose their job, and this is a real thing. Also, people feel that if an AI algorithm makes a choice, they wouldn't know who is responsible for that. You have companies that don't know how to embrace AI, and they are losing, and they feel that they are losing things, and they are becoming less competitive. And also, one of the big problems that we don't realize possibly now is that we need more people working in AI. So we need more people involved in the IT technology sector, and also more people working in AI algorithms. So what happened is that, let's go back to 2016. So EU has realized that both in private investments and in public investments, the EU lagged behind both Asia and the US by factors. Okay, so in 2018, on April 2018, a coordinated plan for the development and use of AI was being published. The two focus points of this is how to create human-centric AI, so AI that works for people, and how to create ethical AI and also become global leaders in that. So this was an original document with many strategies and good ideas, and since then, member states have done much work. So they did cooperate and also created strategies, AI strategies, on the national level. The next step was in 2021, where even now, EU, Europe, is in a weaker position in AI when basically related to China, related to the US. One of the reasons that this happens is the lack of data. So there are not many companies in the EU that have lots of data in order to be able to train good artificial intelligence algorithms. So this made EU create another document, so the Coordinated Plan on Artificial Intelligence Review on 2021, and the goal of that is to accelerate investments via Horizon proposals, research proposals, and other utilities, act on the strategies and make sure that those strategies are implemented and align across all member states their policy. Now, the idea is that this plan has some key policy proposals. And those key policy proposals are basically including some additional proposals on how to solve the issues. So the first key policy proposal is how to set enabling conditions for AI development and uptake in the EU. So the first proposal is that the first suggestion, basically, is that member states should be aligned and create synergies among them, among companies and among research institutions. The second thing, on the second bullet, I have that the EU realized that we need high-quality data. And also we need ways to share that data across companies and across government institutions. So that led EU to create additional proposals, so starting on February 2020, about the European strategy on data. And the idea is that we, at some point, should create, as European Union, a single data market where data is exchanged in a GDPR-friendly way. Then, on June 2020, a report of business to government data sharing has been created, where EU tries to explain and find and create strategies on how government will share data with companies. And then, of course, there's a new Data Governance Act that has just been agreed in November 2021. Also, EU is giving a lot of money through Horizon projects and through Connecting Europe facilities, which are large infrastructure-based projects, to create a European cloud. Because, again, EU is realizing that most of the cloud players, most of the infrastructure providers, are not European Union-based. So you have AWS, you have Microsoft, you have Google, and this is a problem for EU. The second key policy proposal is how to connect research institutions, that EU has lots of them, with the market. Now, EU has created something they call testing, and is creating currently, testing and experimentation facilities. So these will provide websites and basically all the needed procedures in order for companies like you to be able to create in a very easy manner and test all those AI algorithms that already have been available in the research institutions. Also, a very interesting new notion is the notion of digital innovation hubs. So digital innovation hubs are basically aiming to be a one-stop shop where a company can go and find research institution partners with the right qualities as the company basically needs. And EU is spending a lot of money, 1.5 billion basically, to create 200 of those digital innovation hubs across Europe. Also, there's a platform called European AI on Demand, which claims to be a facilitator of knowledge transfer between research organizations and institutions. And again, this is something that EU is trying a lot. Okay, so EU is trying to basically connect universities with the companies. Also, there are ways that EU invests in companies related to AI, and this is done via the European Innovation Council and some investment schemes that have been created for the past few years. Now, as we said, EU has very specific goals in mind related to AI. So AI should be human-centric, should be sustainable, and should be inclusive and trustworthy. Now, one of the barriers for that is finding the right people to do that. So the availability of employees with skills in AI is evident across the EU. That means that the EU will put, and is currently putting a lot of money in creating postdoctoral theses, on funding postdoctoral researchers to work in companies, and also PhD, industrial PhD theses. So the EU is giving a lot of money in companies to be able to combine their knowledge with the universities. Also, the EU develops the policy framework to ensure trust in AI systems. So in 2022, some measures will be proposed, adapting the liability framework to the challenges of new technologies and mainly AI. And also, EU has created an assessment list on trustworthy artificial intelligence. So this is something quite interesting. It's based on the ethics guidelines for trustworthy artificial intelligence. And this is basically a questionnaire where you as a company can answer some questions related to how you use AI systems internally or how do you develop AI systems internally. And this is something that Klemens will give an overview for in the next few minutes. Now, what are the opportunities at this point? One of the main opportunities is money, so investment. Horizon programs are programs that sponsor and fund companies, even with 100% funding, to work in multiple thematic categories, and one of those categories is AI. Also, what we see is that AI is not only limited in the ICT sector, in the technology sector. AI, across Horizon proposals, across EU-funded proposals, it can be found from cultural-related calls or social-related calls. So, for example, in DataScouting, we have applied for a project that applies AI for a better democracy. So AI is across these Horizon proposals. Also, there's the Digital Europe program, which is another funding mechanism that allows companies to get both money and also experience through EU. Also, there's, during the COVID pandemic, there's a Recovery and Resilience Facility, which again gives a lot of money both to government organizations and companies to apply AI in their related sector. Another opportunity that I see is that companies should start and work with research institutions. So digital innovation hubs is something that you should think and find ways to start connecting with those people, because EU research institutions are of the highest standard. And finally, I think that the opportunities are there for the companies that will start educating their staff related to EU regulations as fast as possible. Because early movers or early adopters of EU legal requirements and EU strategies, I think will be much more competitive in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stavros. So, a little bit unsure how to stand or how to walk or how to hit my hands, so I hide behind this desk. It's quite a drop in emotion, I think, after 1 hour of body language to come to something quite as sexy as EU regulations. But the final remarks were the one that count. It's money, it's potential, and it's there for the taking. Well, my name is Klemens Ganner. I'm CEO of APA-Com, and I would like to welcome you to my hometown, Vienna. I hope you had a great summit so far, and I'll take up the pace about ethical AI. How we did it, we all faced a challenge, at least if we want to make business in Europe, to navigate EU directives. We did that at APA by adopting ethical AI guidelines this year, and I want to tell you about how we did that and why we did that. So this is APA. We are the national news agency. We have around 500 employees. We are owned by the national media, and we have 3 business segments. It's the news agency, APA News, the red one, APA-Com, catering for the communication business with media monitoring and press release and many, many more services, and APA-Tech, our own IT daughter company with around 130 coders and developers. We use AI currently for media monitoring. Of course, we have some AIs in place here. We use it for automated content, so we use it for media analysis, where we take data and make text from data. And we also use it for reporting and for editorial things and editorial tasks, where we, for example, use it for text from election data. And last year we decided that we want to build our own face recognition software to offer it to our media monitoring client, to do visual media monitoring for them, and to optimize search results within our picture database. So we have a picture database about 50 million pictures of news pictures where we cater the media, and they search and buy from this picture database. So this example shows why we think we needed face recognition in the picture database. Pictures are found by their metadata, by their text. So the photographer or the editor adds a text, and here we see our former Chancellor, Sebastian Kurz, speaking in Parliament, and we see the ministers right beside, sitting there. In the text, there's only Sebastian Kurz mentioned, so if you search for this image, you will only find Sebastian Kurz. But right next to him is also Karl Nehammer, who is our Chancellor now, and he would not be found. So AI can solve this because AI can identify this is Karl Nehammer. And with 50 million pictures and on a daily rate, it's 14 or 15,000 new pictures that come in. That's not something you want to do by hand. So face recognition is a sketchy topic. One that sparks dystopian scenarios in many minds. So you think about surveillance cameras and predictive policing and companies or governments abusing the technology or ignoring privacy. And so our goal was clear. We want to build a trustworthy AI. We want to use the technology, but we want to make it trustworthy and address ethical questions that arise when using face recognition. Why did we want to do that? We want to do that to protect our brand. So our brand and our image is something that our clients rely on. They know that we are a trustworthy company, and we wanted to have this fostered and improved. So in order to do that, you need to have some rules set in place to keep and to make AI trustworthy. So as Stavros said, we adopted 7 key requirements for trustworthy AI. This comes from the 2019 EU ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI. We used these 7 key requirements, and I will point out some things that we did in these 7 requirements. For example, first point, human agency and oversight. What we did is we established a new role in the picture agency, in the picture department, or a new position. It's called the Visual Trust Officer, who was and is responsible for the whole process. So we have a human who is reliable for what happens with the software. We also developed a checklist within AI, within the APA, group that has to be used for each new AI project or each new AI feature that we want to adopt. Then, for example, for point 3, privacy and data governance, the guideline says if you use AI, it has to be as narrow as possible. And this is what we did with face recognition. We exactly use it for 2 use cases, picture database and visual media monitoring. Also, in addition, we only index people of public interest, so politicians and the like. And how do we make sure that we only address and index those people? Well, we had legal counsel there, so we had someone look over that. Third point, when it comes to privacy, is people can always opt out. So they know if they go to our website, you have always the possibility, please keep my face out of your recognition software, and we will delete all the data. Then, for example, for transparency, point 4, we label all the AI filters that we use in the picture database, and we explain what we are doing. So it's transparency. One of the most important, or one of the most interesting things was diversity, non-discrimination, and fairness, because this is where the decision how you train the model and with what training model you work decides how well the AI will work. So we try to have very less or nearly no bias in the training data. What is bias? So when we researched what public people we want to index, there was a huge overlapping, or the huge amount, or the vast amount of the people we indexed were white males. So what we did is we counterbalanced this bias by indexing a lot more women by hand, because we looked at the people that were searched in our database, so what people actually search, and this is a bias that we want to exclude from the AI. So we did a lot of additional trainings with female public persons as well. Also, the testing model and the training model have to be separated when you develop the AI. That means the one who trains the model is not doing the quality control, and we established these workflows to have that separate. So these are all examples of how we tried to make the use of this face recognition software ethical. What the EU did in the Artificial Intelligence Act, which came out in April 2021, is in addition to make it ethical, or with the goal to make it ethical, they said we have to rate the use of AI in different risk categories. So it's 4 risk categories: low, limited, high, and unacceptable risk. And for each of these risk categories, there is regulation or standards that have to be applied. So limited risk, you have to have transparency. High risk, you have regulated AI use, and unacceptable risk will be prohibited. This is what the EU Artificial Intelligence Act will do and will make. How exactly this will play out is still open, because it will be, I think, 2024 until it's finally adopted. But we did a legal assessment for face recognition, because we wanted to know, well, where will it be? And the legal assessment for Austria was it's a high-risk system, because you store biometric data. That means that could mean obligatory third-party certification in the future, in 2024, or whenever they come in place, these regulations. And the standardizations organizations are already working on these certifications, at least in Austria. I know that they're already working on that. So this is something that the EU Artificial Intelligence Act will bring us. This leaves me with the takeaways that we learned, and I would pass on to you. So for us, investing in trustworthy AI means strengthening trust in your brand, so to be on the good side of these possibilities and of this technology. And AI shapes our industry. I think that's fair to say, and it's currently us who define its proper use until the regulations are in place, and we did it because we want to do it. And also, at the moment, the boundaries and the regulations are often not in the EU Act that is here to come, but in the already existing privacy regulations or in the GDPR that is in place since many years. And the consequences, of course, what will then be, definitely we will see. And it's going to be important to watch and to be on top of this topic for us, I think. So, sorry, I forgot I had the last slide. We did a white paper on our guideline. Unfortunately, it's only in German, but I posted the link anyway, so happy to provide this for you all. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the body language test of just how eager I was to stand to congratulate you on a great presentation. No, I think this is probably the hardest session, right? We're all in our heads now about everything. So you guys did great. And the interesting thing is when we're talking about data, we're talking about all of these requirements now. That's a whole different game. And I think I keep going back to the session yesterday where they were talking about the expectation of the client and the requirements and the regulations and everything that goes into making those services available. And so I'll start with you, Stavros. How are you managing this to stay ahead of the curve with all of these pending regulations, with these elements coming forward? What's the strategy of you and your team to be able to implement these things in an ethical way?
Yes. So, as you know, in DataScouting, we do a lot of work in AI. So we do face recognition, logo recognition, speech recognition, so all those things that are mainly AI technologies. Now, some of those technologies need data to be trained. So, for example, face recognition needs data to be trained, but our business model is to do that with data from the customer. Because we shouldn't basically train a face recognition algorithm with millions or tens of thousands, let's say, of faces, such things exist also, but the idea is to train that with data from the customer. So we know that EU regulations will pop up at some place. There are ethical guidelines, and we try to basically communicate them to the customers. Now, related to algorithms that we do the training ourselves, then usually, again, we are the data creators. So, for example, in speech recognition technologies, you have to combine, let's say, a data set, do the transcription, etc. So what we are trying to do, and this is not only because of the legality behind that, it's because we need to have AI that's smarter and smarter. What we do is to try and not discriminate, for example, the data sets that we use. We try to get data sets that's disparate as possible. So an important thing that we do internally is that we also try to communicate as much as we can. We are not legal experts or something like that, but we are trying to communicate that internally to the development team, so the team that does the research.
That's so powerful. And, when you look at the evolution of that from bots to everything else that's included in there, I think that, again, speaks to that conversation yesterday where when you're collaborating with the client, when you're using their information, you're narrowing that field to some degree to give them better accuracy, but also to know that you're ethically using that data and access to it. So that's fantastic. Now for the tough question. As you're implementing some of these new systems, and they are so new, and the scary thing is I think 2024 will be here for us all before we know it, right? As you're looking at what that process is, and you're looking across 3 different divisions of a company, How do your teams communicate that to know that they're doing everything ethically? I mean, is there an initial sourcing that you use to assure that, to validate that, or what does that quality assurance for you look like?
I think you can sum it up into awareness for now, because now it's not legally binding. It's coming, but having the awareness that it is important to know how it works and how training data might affect AI is key element. And what we have in the APA group is we have an innovation office, and this innovation office is also responsible for funding. So I don't know how many of you have already applied for EU funding. It's a lot of fun. And part of this innovation office is getting funds, but part of that is also communicating these most important things within the group. So when we did this guideline, of course we communicated it outside to our clients, but it was also a lot of internal communication, and I think the awareness is already quite high. Since we are also technology providers, it's something that's important to have it on your label and connected with your brand.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Now, when in your example, you used a picture and all of the politicians were in masks, what is that process like in training the AI? And I think both of you can probably speak to this. What are those iterations that you have to go to in these extreme situations of identifying people in mask and then identifying them again without their mask on? I mean, what is that training process?
Well, one fun thing is that there used to be special facial recognition algorithms in banks, for example, that when the system sees somebody in a mask, it should create an alert because somebody is trying to rob the mask, to rob the bank. But yes, hiding specific facial characteristics, of course, it's much more, makes the whole system much more, let's say, difficult to respond to those questions. The eyes are one of the most, so the eyes and the nose also is one of the most important characteristics regarding to face. But this also depends. So if you feed the system with additional training data with people wearing masks, of course, you have lower quality than if you have someone without a mask. The system works quite well.
I think that's the scary thing, because it really works good. But it also makes mistakes, and this is also something that you have to keep in mind when you train it, and you have the training separate from the testing to have exactly these results. So the best known example for failed training is the training the AI to recognize dogs versus wolves. And the training data that was used was always that wolves were used where there was snow, and the system learned that, okay, if there's snow in the picture, it must be a wolf. And this is a very simple example for how important it is to have an oversight over the training data and to have those testing procedures in place.
Yeah, the rigor of that is critical, right? Because I mean, any of those assumptions and biases that are baked into the programs or make them fraught with errors potentially. So, and I know we have a question from the audience, Maya.
Klemens mostly, but of course you may have also input. So you mentioned the opt-out regime that you have introduced. And given that your face recognition system is for public figures, is there and should there be a justification of why a public figure would want to opt out? Like, for instance, Sebastian Kurz decides, I want to opt out. And does the former chancellor have the right to opt out?
That's a very difficult question, because it goes into right into the media space, what is allowed and what should be allowed for journalists and what not. So in the GDPR, you have exclusives or exclusions for journalistic uses. And this is also something that goes for face recognition use. But we decided to allow this possibility. What we do not do is we do not delete pictures. If a politician says, well, I'm not so good looking at this picture, please delete it from the database. This is something we do not do. But so far, we decided, okay, to give the possibility to have his personal biometric data deleted if you wanted to.
And the follow-up question then, how many public figures have used the opt-out already?
We have it. We did it. So the final report was in April, and we had no opt-out yet. But we have trained around 2,500 people so far. So it's not that big, but I think to give the most important thing is to give the opportunity.
Great. Thank you for the question, Maya. Thank you, Stavros, and thank you, Klemens. I know they will be here for the networking break. We're going to try to get a little bit back on schedule, but please join me in a round of applause for Stavros and Klemens and a very important topic for our industry.
Thank you.